Splits like this are some of the worst to deal with in climbing. Because they sit right on the joint, they reopen every single time you move your finger, and can be incredibly painful and take weeks to heal. I've had real trouble with these in the past, so when I got one a few weeks ago, I took to Instagram to ask for advice on how to fix it. I got some really great advice, and was climbing without tape within a few days, but unfortunately, managed to reopen it at Anstey's yesterday. I was pretty surprised when it re-split, as it hadn't been bothering me in a good few weeks. But now, I figure I'll take the opportunity to share the advice that I got that helped me heal it so quickly, and hopefully help some other people with healing these tricky little injury. Now, you probably don't have a joint split right now, but I would say to remember this video and save it and watch it so you know what to do when you do come across one. It'll probably happen in the future, especially if you have dry skin, so being prepared is always the best option. I'll also talk about the best ways of preventing this from happening in the first place, so as prevention is better than cure, I'd stick around for that. The first thing you want to do when you get home from the crag is really thoroughly clean out the cut. You want to make sure to get all of the chalk and dirt out, as all of that will prevent it from healing as quickly. The next thing you're going to want to do is sand down around the cut to help prevent any rough edges. I'm using 150 grit sandpaper here, and that seems pretty much right for me, but you really want to be able to get this nice C-shaped bend that can get into the joint. So something like those skin files that a lot of companies sell would probably not be quite as good. This stuff is really versatile. I find myself using it pretty much every day, so I definitely recommend having some in your skincare kit. You're looking to get a nice smooth finish so you don't feel any bumps around the outside of the cut. That'll help it heal smooth and stop it catching again when you're climbing. Sanding like this is also one of the most important bits of maintenance you want to do on this as it heals. So if you feel a buildup of skin as it heals, then you want to make sure you're sanding it so it doesn't split again. This is what I missed out on over the last couple of weeks, and I think that's why it resplit yesterday. I think the reason that these splits happen to me is that buildup of skin gets really dry, and then the constant bending and stretching of the skin really splits it. So if you can avoid that buildup, then hopefully you can avoid the splits. So the next thing you're going to want to do is apply some kind of repair or moisturizing balm as often as possible. The thing we're really trying to avoid is the cut drying as it heals, and then re-splitting again as you bend your finger around. So you want to be making sure to keep this as moist as possible. Here I'm using Rhino Skin Repair, which I found to be really good, but basically any moisturizer should work pretty well. I've heard really good things about Elizabeth Arden 8-hour overnight cream. That's meant to be incredible, but very expensive. Rhino Skin also do some kind of split balm that you can apply from like a tube. But really, whatever you have available will be better than nothing. Even just some kind of hand moisturizer should work pretty well. I also find that moving it around after you've applied the balm works really well to kind of keep it loose and mobile. It does hurt a bit, but I think it's worth it. The biggest danger for these splits is overnight. As you sleep, you kind of naturally bend your finger, and so then as it heals overnight in that position, you straighten it out in the morning and then you re-split it again. So what we're going to do to keep it straight overnight and have it heal in that position is to splint it. Here I am using a little screw fix pencil. Just make sure to not wrap it too tightly, otherwise it gets pretty painful overnight. This feels weird as hell, but it's definitely the best piece of advice that I got. I'd never heard of this before, and it definitely sped up my recovery significantly. When I'm wrapping, I make sure to leave a little space in the tape just where the cut is, and then I kind of leave it exposed to the air with a load of repair balm on it. I think this helps keeps it moisturized overnight and avoids the feeling of it being really stiff the next morning. Even with that though, the next morning it's going to be pretty tight, and you're going to want to try and move it around as much as possible in the morning. I would recommend moisturizing it with some repair balm before you do this, and then kind of work it in by bending the finger backwards and forwards. Then you're going to want to repeat this whole routine daily. Keep it clean, sand the edges, apply repair balm religiously, and splint it at night. Then, hopefully, it'll be healed within about 5 to 7 days. If you're like me though, you're not going to be able to wait 5 to 7 days before climbing, and if you try and climb without tape, you're going to re-split it. The best tape I've ever used is Luco tape. I'll link it down in the description, but it's strong and incredibly sticky, and is probably the closest thing I've found to my own skin. A few people suggested a thin strip of tape like this, and I think later on in the recovery it can be pretty good, but I find early on it doesn't offer quite as much protection as I would like for the cut. I'll probably make a full video about taping tips in the future, as I think there's quite a lot to it, but the best method that I've found for taping this joint is to put a cross over it with a thin strip of Luco tape, and then essentially follow the cross down and cross hatch down across the finger. I've not done the best job of keeping this in the frame, but you essentially want to follow the downward side of the cross, go around the back of the finger, and then follow the upward side of the cross. Then follow this down a few more times to just above the second joint, making sure to not make it too tight, as it does tighten up pretty quickly. Definitely have a play around with this technique, as it's saved a fair few climbing sessions for me since I learned it. When I split while working my project for the day, I had somebody throw me up a roll of tape and put a few quick wraps of tape round as a makeshift repair. But when I came down, I put on a full crosshatch and ended up sending at the end of the day, despite a small amount of blood seeping through.
Yeah. Come on! Yes! Nice, Alex.
Fucking go!
Yeah, buddy.
Yes! Yo!
You are so
Ah!
good.
Supremely sketchy, but hopefully this proves that joint splits don't have to be the end of a climbing day. This is how I do it, but it's certainly not the only way, and I hope it serves as a starting point for your own experimentation. Quick addendum to this video since I filmed it a few days ago. It's been about 4 days since I originally split, and this is the finger now. I think it's looking pretty good, and I would certainly climb without tape on it if I didn't have a big comp coming up, but I think I'd rather not take the risk. The only change from this routine that I did is I did end up picking up some roughness in split. It's definitely easier to apply, like, specifically in the split, and then it definitely keeps it more hydrated. So I've been applying that, like, frequently, so 5 or 6 times a day, whenever I see it, basically. And I think it's been going pretty well. Thanks very much to everyone who gave me advice on Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you have any more tips for anyone who's watching this, please put them in the comments below. See ya!